Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. I'm Preacher Miles, host of the SOS, the Shout Out Show. Hope you're having a wonderful Thursday, a fabulous Thursday, a fantastic Thursday. Again, we want to give a shout out to our brothers and sisters down in Haiti who are subjects or victims of a large explosion, over 60 people killed. Hearts go out. As well as around the country, anybody who's experienced any kind of distress or heartache or hardship, let us know. And I believe really that prayer works. So I don't want you to feel like you're out there alone. We've all been through some difficult times, some trying times, some challenging issues. But in the end, if we work together, I believe, and we have that conversation, the communication that lets everyone know you're not alone, sometimes it's a little bit easier. So today, brothers and sisters, here on the Shout Out Show, we get to back up a little bit. We've talked a lot about economics. We talk about job mobility. We talked about a lot of things. And one of the things that it keeps coming around is one, economy, but economy attached to jobs. Not just economy, but the whole scope of human capital. What does human capital mean to the employer? It means everything. That term, though, human capital, is so disconnected. It's so dry and pragmatic, though. A lot of people, through the pandemic, stopped seeing themselves as human capital. They started seeing themselves as individuals that were connected to networks and societies and organizations outside of the workplace, brothers and sisters. If you look behind me, some of the guys you see right here, I pulled this background up, and this is from the Great Depression. Now, let me tell you what it is. The Great Depression wanted. These were victims of the stock market crash in 1929. And what is interesting is somebody did a study and they said that people who were affected by the stock market crash in 1929, guess what? They didn't trust the stock market. So you created an entire class, not underclass, but entire class that were distrustful of the U.S. monetary system as opposed to a stock market. Well, we kind of went through that, brothers and sisters. The whole idea of recessions and inflations are usually coupled by the fact that the job market is somehow impaired, it's somehow stagnant, and that people who want to work are not able to work. So we're going to talk about that today because we have a new situation, if you will. We have a plethora of jobs, but people don't want those jobs. Something happened during the pandemic. Now let me explain to you what a job meant for me back in the day. A job for me, I'm an entrepreneur. We used to say job means just over broke. That's what a job meant to me, just over broke. But what I did was the fact that someone said work. You can work for yourself. You can't job for yourself. You can work for yourself. And the whole scope of being able to work for myself is something that I have to say it totally consumed me as a young child. I looked at my uncles, I looked at my auntie, I looked at people in my community who they had jobs, but they gave themselves work. I don't know if that makes sense to some folks, but it was the idea that if I'm going to work, I'm going to work for myself. I'm not going to job for myself. I'm going to work for myself. The pandemic was interesting in a couple of really interesting facets. Number one, that time that you were not at work, the time that people were not at work, the time that people were not at their cubicles, the time that people were not at their jobs, by the water fountain, getting coffee, ordering out, industry stopped, brothers and sisters. And in that stoppage, if you will, what you had was a recalibration. And the recalibration, brothers and sisters, is the thing that we want to talk about today. Much the same as the people in 1929 who lost jobs due to the stock market. The stock market crashed, if you will. The economy was totally in disarray. When they came back to the job market, they came back with a specific, differentiated understanding of work. Now, I can tell you right now, my grandfather used to tell me, your ability to work and provide for your family, that was an essential part of your character as a man. Can you take care of your family? It's huge. I still live by that now. Can you take care of your family? If somebody's sick, you got a wife, you got a daughter, your parents, the value And the merit of you as a man is tied into, can you take care of your family? We just came out of a situation with the pandemic, and we're just getting back to work. We're just getting back to work. But some folks are not getting back to work. They're getting back to the reality of themselves. And we're going to talk about that here in the Shout Out Show. Thank you so much in advance for joining us. We appreciate you. Let's go ahead and get the show started. All right, and we're back. So listen, I want to shout out a couple folks. I forgot to send the link out. So Miss Eleanor, my mom, my Maxine, you just got your links. Please don't be mad with me. You know how it is. I get a little busy. We want to go ahead and shout out whoever we have in the comment section. I'm going to go ahead and shout out our regulars that come through. I know we got Sister Ree in the house. Let's give a shout out to Sister Ree. You know, for those that don't know, Sister Ree started her own business during the pandemic, whereby she took this whole idea of I make food, and she would give me a lot of food, but she took the whole idea that I make food and she commoditized. She segmented it whereby I can take quality control or portion control and I could sell it. And I have to say myself, I speak for a lot of people on the Shout Out Show, we were generally excited that Sister E was going out and taking initiative, if you will. It was easy for her to sit back and not do anything. She could have said my health and da-da-da. But this is the thing that I'm going to talk about today, how people responded in the pandemic. So, Reed, thank you so much for coming. I got to give a shout out to our regulars. I know JT is somewhere out in the atmosphere. He's coming. He'll get on the show, inshallah. I want to give a shout out, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, to my main man, Altaf Rashid. We also want to give a shout out to our brother Bilal Salahuddin, my main man, Eric Carter. We got so many people, Sister Ika. We want to go round the line. We got Sister Janice Tuff. Of course, we have Sister Chowdhury. You know who I'm talking about, Sister Chowdhury. I don't know if she's in Facebook jail again, but if she is, and you can hear our voice through the Facebook jail bars, we miss you. Okay. What's going on, Altaf? I already gave you a shout out, man. I'm going to give you your salams, though. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I appreciate you, brother. I call you our Canadian ambassador. What I want to call you, man, is just mad consistent. You know, a lot of people don't understand the practice. We talk about deliberate practice. Satana and I talk about deliberate practice all the time. You know, just the fact that we've been able to produce this amount of shows in this amount of time, and there really was no disconnect. You know, there was no disconnect. There was no disharmony. Shout out to Satana for being a great consultant producer. You know, she speaks. I hear. We talk about things. We have meetings, and these are the things I would like to say about this particular venture of the Shout Out Show that made it not be a job. It was kind of work. We got into a space where we had an excellent workspace, an excellent work relationship. Okay. So this story begins, brothers and sisters, not with COVID. The whole idea of a job crisis, America ain't working, really comes from a time where America was not working, where the relationship of inflation and recession was usually accompanied by a very, very tight job market, an extremely tight job market. And what everybody should know is probably what you already know. I might just be redundant here, but it's interesting that people have never ever looked at the psychology of people and how they work, their relationships to employment, because most of the studies are very pragmatic and it's done from a productivity level, whereby the businesses and the people who do the assessments and analysis for businesses, they don't take into account, I like to say, the component of human emotion. Now, when I say human emotion, I'm talking about the things that really affect us. You know, a lot of times when we go to work, what do they tell you? Leave your problems at the door, do your job, and leave. That's normally what you hear. You know, leave your issues at the door. Da da. You're here for a job. I pay you for a job. There are a lot of things that are out there floating around about why people are not coming to work. Because see, right now the economy and the economists and the businesses are trying to figure out why people are not coming to work. There are a lot of reasons, and we're going to run through some of them. But before I do that, I want to make sure I prime the pump, and I just want to show you guys. I want to show you an interview that was going on CNN. It just came out today, very, very insightful. And I'm going to try and build off to that if you don't mind. Satana, can we bring that up, please? Thank you.
A simple task. Kate Santangelo picks up her 7-year-old daughter Grace from school, something she's waited years to do.
Do you recall how often you were able to pick your daughter up from school?
Oh my gosh, never.
But that all changed in April. She quit her 15-year career in sales to be home full-time with her kids.
I was working endless hours and traveling a lot.
If COVID didn't happen, do you think that you still would have quit your job?
No, I think I'd still be there. Yeah, without a doubt.
She's one of millions quitting the workforce in recent months. A record 4.4 million quits in September. It's being called the Great Resignation.
We had so much time that, we had to be sitting in our homes and spending time with people that we live with and just shifting priorities.
And she's one of 4.7 million business applications filed from January through October of this year, a 34% increase from the same time period in 2019. She founded Monmouth Moms, a resource guide for parents.
It allows me to take off if I need to bring, my kids to the doctor or, offer more flexibility in terms of when I can even schedule appointments for them.
It's not just moms leaving the workforce. Americans are retiring in greater numbers too.
What am I looking at behind you guys right now?
That's our RV. Yeah, that's our RV. You got the background.
Scott and Mary Banks retired early this September at 57 and 59 respectively and are road tripping across the country.
Packed up, strapped down, and ready to head down the road.
Scott quit his finance job. Mary left real estate.
I said, what would you think if we did it now instead of waiting 3 more years?
And I'm like, I pushed all my chips in. I'm all in.
1.5 million Americans were on pace to retire during the pandemic. Instead, that number more than doubled to 3.6 million.
And it was just that thought of, gosh, wouldn't it be just a tragedy if we spent all this time working for our retirement and then right near the finish line, you catch a horrible disease and die and never get to enjoy your retirement.
So they capitalized on the hot housing market, sold their home, and hit the road.
How is life on the road compared to the jobs that you left behind?
Gosh, I wish I could say it was tough, but no, it's great. I do not miss at all working right now.
The Banks clearly enjoying their early retirement there. Now, the industries with the highest quit rates are education, transportation, leisure, and hospitality. These are industries that before the pandemic were suffering from labor shortages. And of course, that's being felt much more acutely right now. And the Americans we spoke to who quit those industries said that they did it to look for higher wages, to look for more flexibility at work, and to be able to work from home so they didn't have to interact with as many people because of COVID fears. But Alex and Christy, clearly this pandemic has transformed the way that Americans are wanting to work and the work that they're willing to do.
So I think I can take my mic here. Okay. So, one of the things that the gentleman said, the guy who was in finance, said something that was really interesting, is that the fact that people somehow question the whole myth about retirement. About that you're going to work until you're 65-ish or 67-ish. You shut it down and then, you get your pension or you get your Social Security. Nobody believed that. And in fact, during the time of COVID, the economy was in such an uproar. It was such a state of chaos. Nobody thought, brothers and sisters, that I'm going to live to be 65. Or even if I get to be 65, it's not going to be the quality of life that I want to have. It's a very interesting thing. You know, I have a very good, let's just say, a good friend who retired early. And in him talking about retiring early, he was essentially saying, look, the longer I stay in the system, the more money I'm going to lose. There's no, I've maxed out where I'm going to be making money. At this point in time, I'm working, but the cost of living is going to catch up to me. And he was also pretty astute, saying, listen, the work that I'm doing for this particular company, if I did it on my own, I could price my own work. While I'm here, I have a job. I can't price my own work. So when you start thinking about some of those things, brothers and sisters, it boils down to something that's not really being talked about enough. It's being talked about, but it's not being talked about enough. And this is the fact that in the history of America, if you will, not since the Great Depression, and I would say even the Great Depression had some upside to it, because you had some people still held on the money. But not since the Great Depression have you had a financial event that was tied to